We live in a world where the creative class is fetishized. We are the biggest assets being preyed upon for those looking for artistic cachet. Intellectual property theft is violence against marginalized people. I'm calling for the Me Too movement of creative appropriation.
You're listening to The Neon Pill, a transcendental memoir brought to you by Miss Neon.
I wanted to introduce a concept that I've been giving a lot of critical thought to. I want to discuss cultural appropriation beyond its current vernacular to include the unspoken reality, which is creative appropriation. So what is creative appropriation? I believe this concept expands upon the idea of cultural appropriation to include the creative class. And I know this is an issue that many, if not all, creative people struggle with, which is having their creativity appropriated and capitalized upon without consent. The creative appropriation of the artist class, in my opinion, is one of the most problematic issues of our culture across many, if not all, industries. I'd like to propose appropriation extends beyond identity to include intellectual property. The artist class is the unspoken creative martyr of popular culture, something which I believe people trivialize more than they understand. I propose there should be an awareness, even a virtue signaling that's needed around the issue of creative appropriation. In the way that our society is structured and has been, artists across all mediums influence the culture at large, yet are rarely given any credit. Intellectual property theft is violence against marginalized people. Artists are marginalized people. We are a class beyond race and identity. However, race and identity compound this issue to a great degree. Equitability needs to be a part of the vernacular as we collectively start to understand concepts around privilege, poserdom, and nepotism are yet to be put in that category of harmful behavior against marginalized people. The creative appropriation by so-called artists of privilege, of those less privileged in terms of visibility, opportunity, class, and identity, should be looked at with the same critical lens that we have rightfully so brought into the vernacular around cultural appropriation. Creative appropriation is no different. And I think it's just about having the framework to discuss this and to air grievances, to move past them. And I think it's important not to let these things inhibit one as a creator. But the truth is, we live in a world where the creative class is fetishized, used up, and left for dead by those who seek to exploit us. You know who you are. I've been abused, corrupted, and exploited more times than I can even count by some of the most influential people in popular culture. And coming out with this has a lot of fear and stigma associated with it. It's a similar feeling to outing an abuser. Because not only do I not want to be known for that, my grievances and our collective grievances as creative people who are exploited by the privileged have no voice. We're seen as frivolous, proclaiming our creative culture as part of our humanity as individuals and collective people. I think this phenomenon has always existed to some degree, but in recent decades it's become especially problematic. The cachet of being an artist is very desirable among those who are privileged, yet have no capacity for creativity themselves. They have created a market of exploiting the creativity of marginalized groups of people, also known as artists. And the fact that this is largely taken anecdotally instead of as a form of cultural abuse, these are very serious grievances that we have. And we need to talk about this. And we need to hold people accountable who have been participating in this. I'm calling for the Me Too movement of creative appropriation. I'm calling to end the stigma. I'm hoping this conversation opens up the possibility of coming out against abusers in the industry who use us to further their capitalistic goals, because this is truly a form of systemic oppression that must end and must be understood in this framework. Cultural appropriation is not limited to race and identity, but these are very, very compounding factors to the overall cultural appropriation. I also think it's very important to have a nuanced perspective on what is appropriation versus inspiration. How can we identify these two things in ways that are not conflating them with one another, while also realizing that there is a lot of gray area here which deserve critical analyzation on a case-by-case basis? I've personally been influenced by so many artists, musicians, philosophers, occultists, thinkers, creators, and I do believe that inspiration is very different than appropriation. The biggest defining difference comes down to claiming something as your own versus a collaborative sense of uplifting your source material as part of your work. Anything I do, I'm very transparent about my influences, and I feel like that's a moral practice. That's where I practice my morality and my creative pursuits, I suppose. But I'm not here to talk about my influences. I'm here to illuminate why creative appropriation is harmful and what we can do to provide accountability and uplift those who have suffered under this systemically oppressive system. We as artists largely do not have the means that people who capitalize on our ideas have the access to. When our work is plagiarized, it becomes even harder to be seen for that very work or anything that we create, which is stolen and pillaged from us. We are often misrepresented as being inspired by the artists that rip us off in the first place. It's the most gaslighting motherfucking feeling in the world. It becomes a sense of paranoia for some, and I know it has for me. And it's still a residual fear that I face about putting my work out there. And how can I possibly expect justice in a world that doesn't take this seriously? We need to be looking at these offenders in the same way that we look at abusers and corrupt leaders in society. Because these are the people holding down a class of people that are not only oppressed, but are capable of moving the culture forward. And when our creativity is corrupted, it becomes a novelty. The fear of being appropriated is constant for me. And I'm lucky, I'm privileged that I somehow never give up. And I'm grateful to have had mentors, family, friends, and supporters who have given me validation to know that what I'm doing matters. The determination to just keep going is the hardest thing to do. Especially when one is an artist that is on the avant-garde spectrum. We are the biggest assets being preyed upon. we are seen as fringe, subversive. We are misunderstood, misrepresented, and lacking in general inclusion and opportunity in our fields that we practice with dedication. We are targets for those looking for artistic cachet. It's the difference between being edgy versus being authentic. Equity is not just about identity, but also creativity and class. I believe we need to push for more visibility of authentic creators and uplift the underground muses of popular culture. And I believe that we need to create, motivate, and establish a practice of calling out predatory creative appropriation, just like any predatory abuse and harm. When authenticity is valued in our society, our needs and our desires and our freedom only gains. This is the next Me Too yet to be discussed. And I'm hoping to be creating a space for it. But truly, this needs to be understood. And this needs to be resolved. We as artists, creatives, innovators, and muses alike need to be met with support and action when airing these types of grievances. We need to be taken seriously. These issues are human rights violations. We need to end the hostility and frivolous implications that gaslight us into not speaking up or not be taken seriously when airing our grievances. And if you are a person who practices this type of predatory creative appropriation, you can make good with us in a number of ways. Many ways in which you can probably think of yourself. Reparations. Simply put, give us value, hire us, credit us, collaborate with us, shout us out, give us a cut, let us own our own fucking work. Take us seriously. And we should all demand this. Our grievances as artists are valid, and they will be heard. The fact that your eyes are already on us to be taking from us in the first place means that you're in a position to uplift. We are doing everything we possibly can to be seen, met with obstacles at every turn, and I personally have maintained the mindset that this is only making me stronger, and this is only making me grow, and I will be all the better for it once I come out the other side and slowly but surely, I'm starting to see a light after 20 fucking years. I'm grateful that I'm still able to do this, that I'm still healthy, that I'm still pretty, that I still look young. Some people are not as lucky or privileged as I. Nikola Tesla is the perfect example of someone outside of the art community who has had his ideas stolen, misappropriated, and we're seeing now more than ever. He was trying to lead us off the grid over 100 years ago. Instances of this transcend the creative arts, even though I believe what he did is an art form. This extends to all areas of innovation, and I'm sure many people can take this conversation further as it pertains to the tech world, politics, and the like. I'm here specifically to speak about the artist implications. I have no problem with manufactured figureheads inherently. I have a problem with those institutions using industry-created influencers to masquerade using predatory practices to lift innovative ideas from the underground. This is an epidemic in the fashion world, the music world, and the art world, especially the intersection of all three in which I reside. Instead of appropriating and capitalizing on uncredited muses, we need to make space for those artists to exist and have the opportunity to be seen and thrive. And the fact that this happens means we are being seen and yet not being given the opportunities we deserve. The fact that people with power and influence are looking at us and not offering us opportunities is fucking predatory. It only works to their benefit to allow us the commodification of our work. You stand to make money off us. Let's come to an understanding where we can both benefit. I truly don't believe that the free market needs to end for us to be liberated, but that's another discussion. Until this system is truly repaired, I believe predatory capitalistic practices must end now. The struggle of commodifying ourselves as artists is why we need more allies in the industry. We need to make creative appropriation visible and expose the reprehensible nature of this practice in all forms. Creativity matters. Stop stigmatizing our creativity as novelty and something which is free to abuse, rape, and pillage from us. We all benefit when ideas are allowed to exist in their highest possible form. The corruption of creativity is the downfall of our sovereignty and society. Co-creation and visibility is the key to unlocking our power and freedom as people. If you have the power to corrupt the artistic vision of an artist or any creator, you also have the power to change that and be a part of the solution. Reparations must be made, and I believe that there should be opportunity to correct what's been wronged. I do not believe people are unredeemable. However, some prove this through their actions. I'm done suffering in silence, telling myself, just don't talk about it. I don't want to be known for this. I want to reap the fucking benefits of my own creative output. I want to create a fucking safe space to talk about this. without ridicule, and without further exploitation. But I'm not gonna wait for it either.